Today we are working Psalm 26. In Psalm Magic, we use Psalm 26 for confidence, for financial success, to avoid prison, for help in any of life's difficulties. Today I'm going to use Psalm 26 to get out of any kind of difficulty. The way we work Psalm Magic is simple, easy, and effective. We take the psalm and we speak it out loud all the way through once without stopping. This is commonly known as an incantation. Then we go back through that psalm and we consider each verse one at a time. We search for hidden or occult meanings that lie behind every verse. And by just looking, searching, contemplating these meanings and trying to apply what we find to whatever it is that we brought to the psalm, we are in effect taking the magic seeds that are in the psalm and planting them in the depths of our mind, where they take root, they grow, they blossom forth, and they bear fruit after their kind. And that's exactly what we are going to do together right now with Psalm 26. Judge me, O Lord, for I have walked in mine integrity. I have trusted also in the Lord, therefore I shall not slide. Examine me, O Lord, and prove me. Try my reins and my heart. For thy loving kindness is before mine eyes, and I have walked in thy truth. I have not sat with vain persons, neither will I go in with dissemblers. I have hated the congregation of evildoers, and will not sit with the wicked. I will wash mine hands in innocency, so will I compass thine altar, O Lord, that I may publish with the voice of thanksgiving, and tell of all thy wondrous works. Lord, I have loved the habitation of thy house, and the place where thine honor dwelleth. Gather not my soul with sinners, nor my life with bloody men, in whose hands is mischief, and their right hand is full of bribes. But as for me, I will walk in mine integrity. Redeem me, and be merciful unto me. My foot standeth in an even place, for the congregations will I bless the Lord. First and foremost, we always want to orient ourselves to the force that we are addressing and understand what it is. It's very common and easy to get sucked into superstition and religious thinking when you're working with a psalm, because we've been taught that the Lord of the Psalms is somewhere outside of us, casting judgment upon us or casting blessings upon us, but not really having much to do with us because they live off in some heaven somewhere. And from a magician's point of view, that's not how we see the Lord. The Lord is a symbol. In the Hebrew, it's the tetragrammaton, Yud-He, Vav-He. And the tetragrammaton is for us a symbol for the one power, the one source, the one force, the one substance in all the universe. There is but one. And since there is but one, nothing can oppose it. There's nothing that can thwart it or go up against it. One with this force is always a majority. And when we align ourselves with this understanding, then our success in Psalm Magic is assured. Judge me, O Lord, for I have walked in mine integrity. When we are asking for the judgment of the Lord, it isn't so much a petition to be judged, it's an acknowledgement that we are judged. The infinite's judgment of you is that you are fabulous, because that's how you were created. You weren't created sinful, you weren't created poor, you weren't created with problems, you were created perfect. And that's the way that the infinite sees you. And that's the way your soul remains. So that's the judgment of the Lord from our point of view. Now, the ego mind would not have it be thus. The ego mind likes to believe that it's separate. And when you try to separate yourself from perfection, how can you do that? How is it possible to differentiate yourself from perfection? To be imperfect. That's the way you differentiate yourself from perfection. So even though the infinite knows that you're perfect, sees you as perfect, judges you as being perfect, the ego doesn't agree. And the ego is constantly trying to convince us that we're not good enough. Some of us double down on our not good enoughness to prove that it's right. Some of us are being convinced that we're not good enough, and we try to go overboard, proving that we are good enough. Either way, we are caught in a thought loop of being not good enough. But that's not how the infinite sees us. So we want to be judged. For I have walked in mine integrity. Now, when you're walking in your integrity, that means that you're walking as your soul. And when you're walking as your soul, regardless of the white noise that the ego throws at you, you're not susceptible to it. You're not hooked by it. I have trusted also in the Lord, therefore I shall not slide. Now, when we trust in this force to guide us, to enliven us, to bless us, to provide for us in whatever the situation is that we've brought to the psalm, then we know that every step we take is guided and we are lifted up, so we won't slide. But when we think all by ourselves, separate from this Creator, then we're subject to that sliding. We're subject to those kinds of errors. And the infinite doesn't hold those errors against us, but because we live in a world of cause and effect, that's one of the main bottom line laws of the universe, our mistakes have consequences. The trick here that we're being taught is to ask before we act. Am I being guided by the infinite, or am I making choices separate and distinct as if I'm not good enough? Examine me, O Lord, and prove me. Try my reins and my heart. It's like going to a personal trainer. We're asking to be tried. We're asking to be worked out. We're asking to be built up so that we understand who we really are as God judges us rather than as we judge ourselves. If you think of Jacob wrestling with the angel, think of the angel as being a sparring partner, trying to get Jacob fit, spiritually speaking. And that's what we're asking for. We're asking to be spiritually fit. For thy loving kindness is before mine eyes, and I have walked in thy truth. The loving kindness of the infinite is eternal. You can't stop it. The ego would have us believe that the infinite will turn against us, or that the infinite has turned against us, that we're cursed, that we're not holy. If there is an infinite, the infinite doesn't like you very much. But the truth that we're acknowledging here is the loving kindness of the infinite is its nature, and that no matter what we think we've done, we can't undo that loving kindness. I have walked in thy truth. We want to walk in the infinite's truth, not in our personal truth. You hear that a lot. My truth is this. My truth is that. Sometimes that's healthy. Sometimes it's healthy to know your truth. But when the ego gets a hold of the concept of my truth, it means I have an alternative reality that is separate and distinct from my soul. And that's not what we want. We want our soul's truth. We want the infinite's truth. I have not sat with vain persons, neither will I go in with dissemblers. So a person in the psalm is a thought. To sit with vain thoughts is to sit with ego identification. I'm separate. I'm different. I'm not part of the infinite. Look in nature, there are no two snowflakes alike. There are no two thumbprints alike. There are no two anythings alike. And therefore, there are no two souls alike. And your uniqueness will never be duplicated. It has never been duplicated. It can't be duplicated. The ego's idea of individuality is different than the infinite's version of individuality. The infinite's version of individuality is that you can't be like anybody else. You can't be, even if you try. You are like everybody else in that we are all one. We are all part of the same family, if you will. We are all equal children of the infinite, but your uniqueness can't be duplicated. Whereas from the ego's point of view, the uniqueness that it tries to sell you on actually just makes you like everybody else. So I have not sat with vain persons, neither will I go in with dissemblers. I'm not going to buy into the ego thought system, that I'm all by myself, that I'm separate. Depending on your background, maybe it's that I'm not quite good enough, or maybe it's that I'm an evil sinner and deserve to go to hell and be punished, all of that kind of stuff. We're not going there anymore. We're not buying into that. I have hated the congregation of evildoers and will not sit with the wicked. To hate in the Psalms means to turn away from, to disregard. So I have disregarded the congregation of evildoers. In other words, those thoughts that tell me I'm not good enough. I'm bad, I'm separate, I'm vulnerable, whatever the negative thought that you come up with for yourself. And everybody's got their own favorites. And I will not sit with the wicked. I'm not sitting and contemplating these evil thoughts anymore. I'm not sitting and contemplating these wicked thoughts about myself and about the world. I will wash my hands in innocency. So I will compass thine altar, O Lord. There used to be a dance that they did in the sanctuary that was a dance of gratitude around the altar. And in order to prepare yourself for that, you had to purify yourself. And one of the ways you did that was symbolically by washing your hands to prove that you're innocent. You can do that your own way by symbolically washing your hands. You don't have to actually do that, but you can. In the psalm, what that means is I'm acknowledging that I was created innocent, and I'm letting go of everything that I've come up with to negate what the infinite created. You see, to think of yourself as anything other than innocent and to be involved with any kind of activities that try to prove that is the height of arrogance. The humility is to recognize that you can't undo the infinite's creation. So no matter what you do, when all is said and done, when all the dust settles, you're going to be just as wonderful as you were created, and everything that you've ever done to try to prove otherwise will have been in vain. And that will be a good thing. That's something to be grateful for. And it says that I may publish with the voice of thanksgiving and tell of all thy wondrous works. We're not grateful to the infinite because the infinite's ego needs to be appeased. It's not like some cult leader that needs to be worshipped. That's not what the infinite is. The infinite is the source of all that is. It's the reason you have life. It's the reason you exist. And because you were created out of love, as an extension of love and light, and that's who you are at your core, and this identity of yours, you didn't make it yourself, it was given to you, is eternal. That's a reason to be grateful. And to understand that all of the stories that you've bought into or created about yourself that negate your perfection are not real, that's another reason to be grateful. And that's to tell all of thy wondrous works. You could never name them all of the wondrous works of the infinite. What are the wonderful blessings in your life? It's really easy to listen to that ego mind and say, oh no, everything is horrible. Nothing is good. Everything's awful. And when you do that, you can focus on that and you can start to experience that in your life. That's the power that you have. You create just like the infinite creates. You and God create in the same exact way by extending thoughts, by projecting thoughts onto the screen of space. But that doesn't make them true. And that doesn't make the objective reality that you are creating for yourself true either. And that's why we call this world of projections of ego thoughts a nightmare or an illusion. Not because it's not happening, but because it's not the will of the infinite. Therefore, it's not ultimately the reality. I may publish with the voice of thanksgiving and tell of all thy wondrous works. That changes your perspective and gets you focused on the truth. And then that truth starts to reflect itself on the screen of space because you're not so busy projecting fears and blame and guilt and upset onto the screen of space. Whenever you project thanksgiving onto the screen of space, it stops all of those nightmares in their tracks. Lord, I have loved the habitation of thy house and the place wherein thine honor dwelleth. The dwelling place or the house of God. Remember that by the time that these psalms were scribed, the goddess had been outlawed. But the dwelling place of God is Shekinah, and that is the substance, the divine substance underneath all form. And we always talk about it as being fairy dust, glitter, magic dust, magic puffs of smoke, that kind of thing. And when it says, I have loved the habitation of thy house and the place wherein thine honor dwelleth, it's basically telling us the Shekinah is the one and only reality in my life. And if the Shekinah is the one and only reality in my life, then I understand that through that Shekinah, I can impress upon that substance any thought I desire, and that thought will be manifest. And if we are understanding that, we realize by looking into our lives that the manifestations we're experiencing are all based on our habitual thinking that's been impressed upon the Shekinah, that's been impressed upon this magic dust by ourselves, by each other, by the group mind. And all of this happens so automatically we don't even notice it. Gather not my soul with sinners, nor my life with bloody men. I no longer want to project onto the screen of space those thought forms that I've been projecting, the thought forms which come out as violence, as whatever you perceive sin to be. Now, sin in this sense doesn't necessarily mean that you've done something bad. It means all of the problems in your life. We can call those sins, meaning that we've been projecting either ourselves individually or ourselves collectively onto the screen of space everything that we don't want. And we haven't realized we've been doing it, or we forgot that we did it. It appears to us as though we are victims of this world and things are happening to us. But we realize that through that Shekinah, we can impress upon that Shekinah anything we desire. If you go back into the New Testament, Jesus talks about something that people get so freaked out about because they don't understand it. It says that the one unforgivable sin is a sin against the Holy Spirit. The Holy Spirit is the Shekinah, the goddess. What that means is that you can't expect yourself to impress upon this universal substance something you don't want and expect something you do want to appear. That's the unforgivable sin. To jump up in the air and expect to not come back down is an unforgivable sin in regards to the law of gravity. Because you expected the law of gravity to work differently for you. That's the ego. An unforgivable sin simply means you can't expect to impress upon the screen of space thought forms which are violent, sinners and bloody men, and expect to have good come from that. In whose hands is mischief, and their right hand is full of bribes. The right hand of the ego is full of bribes. It gives you all kinds of payoffs. You get to do all kinds of things it wants you to believe are gifts. You get to feel sorry for yourself. You get to blame people. Whatever your payoffs are, everybody's unique. What are your payoffs for having these negative situations? A lot of us don't want to give those things up. It's interesting because people talk about algorithms as if they're something new. Your life is an algorithm. Your whole life is an algorithm. What you think about expands. What you focus on manifests. That's the algorithm. You get more of what you put out there. What you put out comes back to you. What you give, you get. What you sow, you reap. That's the algorithm. And so if you have the YouTube algorithm or the Instagram algorithm or the Facebook algorithm, and you say, oh, it's just so horrible how it just tracks what you look at and gives you more of what you've been looking at. It doesn't give you the whole picture. Well, that's what you do. That's the ego. That's the ego's algorithm. In whose hands is mischief, and their right hand is full of bribes. The ego's giving you all of this mischief and bribes and getting you to stay stuck in it by making you think that what you're doing is positive and good, giving you some sort of payoffs. And recognizing that now we say, but as for me, I will walk in mine integrity. Redeem me and be merciful unto me. So to be redeemed is to be distilled. We've talked about redemption before in this way, and it's really what it means. It's an alchemical process, turning the base metals into gold. Think of it less mystically even. Think of it more practically. I always say by making a steam distillation of an essential oil. That's a redemption. So there's little tiny bits of essential oil inside of some sort of plant material. Let's say you're doing sandalwood essential oil. So you got to get all this sandalwood. And if you're steam distilling it, or you're using another distillate, but let's say we're using steam, we have to put all of the sandalwood in with the water and bring it up and allow that steam to condense. And then we have to separate the steam from the essential oil. So not only are we extracting the oil out of the inert material of the sandalwood, but then we are separating the oil out of the steam. And what we get is pure essential oil, a tiny little bit of essential oil with all of this dross. That's redemption. So redeem me and be merciful unto me. I don't want any part of this. Pull me out of the problem. Extract me out of the problem. Be merciful unto me. To be merciful means to have your spell manifest, to have your prayer answered. What did you bring to the psalm? What is your problem? What are you doing here? What do you need? Mercy simply means that you get it. When it says, but as for me, I walk in mine integrity, redeem me and be merciful unto me. Give me what I want. Let me be pulled out of all of this nonsense. Let me not become one of the automatons of the ego where I'm just habitually projecting stuff onto the screen of space that I don't want. Let me get out of that loop. My foot standeth in an even place. In the congregations will I bless the Lord. Well, your foot standeth in an even place when you recognize that you're not part of this world in the way that you believe this world is. There is a world that you are part of, but you don't see that with your senses here because this world is a world of illusions, because it is a world of projections. And if you and all of your friends and everybody you know in the world project stuff onto the screen of space that is incorrect, then we are living in a world that's incorrect. But when it says my foot standeth in an even place, it means I'm recognizing that there is a world that I do exist in where I'm fine, where I'm perfect just the way I am, and I can't slip when I recognize that I live in that world. And this world can start to be a reflection of that world if I let it be. So in the congregations will I bless the Lord, and that's how we do that, because the congregations are your thought forms, are the things that you're doing with your mind, both consciously and unconsciously. And we're saying that if we use our thought forms to bless the Lord, it's all good. Everything changes. All bets are off when it comes to the ego and the demiurge and the problems of this world if we start to program our thinking to bless the Lord. Now, what is to bless the Lord? Remember, the Lord is not out there. The Lord is the source that is deep within you. It's the source out of which you are created in the moment. You're constantly being created. Every moment you are new. And not in this psalm, but in many of the psalms, it talks about where the sanctuary is. It isn't here where it's talking about circumambulating the altar and giving gratitude. But that is a symbol. That altar is a symbol of where you and the infinite are one. And that exists deep within you, deep in your heart. That's the core of your being, is you being one with the infinite. And all of this other drama doesn't exist there, because all of this other drama doesn't exist in the mind of the infinite. So when you're blessing the Lord from that perspective, everything in your life starts to change because you no longer are willing to use your mind to project things onto the screen of space that you don't want, because you're no longer believing what we talked about at the beginning when it says, "Judge me, O Lord, because I've walked in mine integrity. I've trusted also in the Lord, therefore I shall not slide." You're no longer believing anything other than that. You're no longer believing in yourself as being anything less than the perfect expression of the infinite that you are. And you're understanding that if you believe that you're anything less than the perfection of the infinite that you are being arrogant. And you're no longer going to be arrogant. You're going to be humble and recognize that you deserve happiness. You deserve to have your needs met. You deserve to have whatever you brought to this psalm happen. And the infinite agrees with you on that. And now it's up to you to turn your mind and focus your mind on that and not on everything else. So just keep coming back to the psalm once a day until you get a sense of peace and certainty about whatever it is that you brought to this psalm. And that inner sense of peace and certainty is simply an acknowledgement that the spell has taken, that it's done. And you don't have to work on this anymore. You can just forget about it because its manifestation is imminent. Thank you so much for spending some time with me today. I so appreciate you. Until next time, blessed be.